What's happening, people, and welcome back to my channel. Today another big video involving lots of other big Spurs YouTubers, prominent content creators, journalists, reporters, etc. This is a big one, and I've asked them one question, and it's to do with Mathys currently trending conversation whether we should send him back to Bayern, another loan, or we should activate that option to buy that price that we have, which is extremely high. So my one question to the people today is just one simple question: whether Tottenham should sign Mathys this summer or not. Why and why not? So that's the question I put to them. Thank you to everyone who sent in their thoughts. Really hope you enjoy today's video. Like and subscribe to the channel, and please get involved with your thoughts, because this is a very interesting conversation at the moment. I want to hear your thoughts. If maybe you want to sign someone like Leroy Sané, I want to hear it in the comments below. But Mathys come in January. If you ask me, I think he had a good impact. It's whether he's worth the money or not. So let's hear what the people I asked today have to say.
Harry, hope you're well, my friend, and thank you so much for asking me to give my thoughts on what Tottenham should do about Mathys this summer. It's a very, very difficult one, because I think there's a lot of change coming for Tottenham this summer in regards to the manager, in regards to at the top of the club we've seen with Cullen leaving the club finally, and of course with the players as well. And one of those big question marks is whether we're going to keep Mathys on a permanent deal after his loan spell from Bayern Munich. I think we should, personally. I do think that he is someone that will improve our squad and has a scope to develop into a very exciting young player. He's only 19 years old. I think he impressed in the minutes that he had for Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou in the last season, or half a season. And the price that we negotiated with Bayern initially, I think, is maybe a little bit too steep to what he is able to offer us. So I think we should renegotiate that and try and bring that price down. I think you're looking at 50, 60 million and you're thinking, maybe he's not quite worth that. But if we could bring that price down to, say, 35 or 30 million, I think that could end up being a really, really good deal for Spurs. And we may even end up looking back on it in a couple of years' time and thinking we've had Bayern's pants down with that one, because Mathys for so many years has been sort of regarded as one of Europe's top talents. Obviously, Bayern Munich have him for a reason. Although he wasn't a regular starter for them, he did get enough minutes and he developed well with them, and he's proved that he's got talent. And I think he has done that at Tottenham. Obviously, he scored a couple of goals. He probably hasn't played as many minutes as he would have liked to. But I think regardless as to who's in charge of Tottenham next season, if we keep Mathys, he's going to get that opportunity to play more in the Tottenham team. Even if we do sign someone like Leroy Sané on a permanent, I think is that exciting young crop who's hungry and willing and ready to prove himself on the pitch. So I only think that that can have a positive impact in the Tottenham dressing room and at Tottenham as a football club as a whole. So I guess to sort of summarise, yes, I would 100% like to keep longer than the half a season that we've had him for. I hope that we can negotiate a lower price for him, because I think if we can get him for 30, 35 million, that's a steal in the long term. And I'd be really excited to see what he can develop into and how much of an impact he can have for Spurs in the future. Cheers.
Should Spurs buy Mathys on a permanent deal after his 6-month loan at the club from Bayern Munich this season? My answer instinctively is yes. I think he is a raw, exciting talent. He can play anywhere across the forward line. I get why people are asking the question, because he didn't rip it up, maybe even in the same way that Marcus Rashford did when he went on loan to Aston Villa. But the difference is that Tell is young. He's still a kid. And they saw enough at Bayern Munich to pay a lot of money for him when they brought him in. And he impressed at Munich. He scored a fair few goals, considering most of his time was off the bench. And the reality is, when you come to the Premier League, especially if you've only ever played in foreign climes, it always takes time for acclimatization. And that first 6 months for Tell, I would say, is exactly what that was. He got a fair amount of game time, starting in the number 9 position and then as a left-sided forward. I don't think he's a natural number 9, certainly not in the Premier League yet, because he doesn't have the physicality to hold the ball up against big, experienced defenders who know how to come in through you and take the ball off you and know the kind of tricks of the trade that you can get away with in the Premier League that maybe you can't in the Bundesliga. He looked better when he was playing as a wide forward on the left when Sonny was injured. I like his first touch. He's got good acceleration. I wouldn't say he's, Aaron Lennon-esque pace or acceleration, or Gareth Bale pace over long distances, but he's got explosiveness. He's got acceleration. And like I said, I really like his first touch. I like his kind of gameplay, what he does. He makes good decisions at the right times in the most part, particularly when it comes to passing the ball off and when to make runs and little 1-2s and stuff like that. I'd say he didn't quite have the confidence at Spurs in that first 6 months to get his finishing up to scratch. But what I really liked about Mathys Tell, more than anything else, was his desire, his intensity, his want to become a part of the club. How he stood up to fans who were having a go at the team, who were having a go at the manager, and he got involved. And really, that shows a great deal, because for a 6-month loan spell, when you're a kid, you could really just turn up, not be that bothered about ingratiating yourself with the fans or the other players, pick up your money and decide whether you want it. But it struck me, both in terms of what we saw on the pitch and off the pitch, and then also in terms of his messaging after Spurs won the Europa League, that he felt a part of the family at Spurs. He talked about it being a family, and that is something that Postecoglou was really keen to make out of this Spurs squad. And I think that Tell really bought into that, and I think he probably does want to stay. And especially if Tottenham can get that figure that we'd have to pay for him down from the 55 million euros that was agreed to somewhere around 35 million euros, or maybe even 40 million euros, then as an exciting young raw talent who can grow with the club and grow with the other young players, then I really think he could be a huge benefit over the medium to long term. And that is why I would definitely go through with the transfer on a permanent basis.
How's it going, everyone? Hope you're well. My name is Willsey, back with another video, and this time Harry Scarfe has politely asked me to give you my thoughts on whether Spurs should be signing Mathys Tell for next season, or whether we should ship him back to Bayern Munich. So let's get into it. Also, just a quick disclaimer, please subscribe to Harry, like the video, turn the notification bell on, all of that stuff. He's a great content creator and does a lot for people in inclusion, and he's a great mate of mine, so please support him in any way you can. Starting off with stats, you can see that he's played 34 games for us this season, and he's also scored 3 and assisted 2, and also played 1,715 minutes of game time. Just one quick correction. The stats shown include the time he had at Bayern Munich before the loan spell, and that includes 1 assist and 450 minutes played, including the Champions League. Relatively speaking, those aren't the greatest stats in the world, especially considering he's a winger that can play on either side of the wing, and he's also a striker sometimes as well. Those aren't great stats. However, considering that Bayern are quote reportedly willing to lower asking price for Tell to 30 million from the original 60, it would be rude not to snap him up. There's also just one more point to consider, considering that we are also looking to bring in his Bayern counterpart Leroy Sané. Would it be beneficial for him to join our club and be guaranteed minutes all of the time? Probably not. With the likes of Odegaard, Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski, and also it's undecided whether Son will be staying with us or not. It's not confirmed that Tell will be getting lots of game time, but I reckon he could be a beneficial super sub for us in the upcoming games that we have, especially in the Champions League. He has played in this competition before, obviously with Bayern Munich, so I think with the experience, he would be a great signing for us next season. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this topic. Whether you agree with me, disagree with me, that's completely fine. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy what the rest of the guests have to say in this video. Big up to Harry as always, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.
My thoughts on Mathys Tell. I can't lie, look, I'm going to be completely honest. My expectation wasn't too high of him when he came in. I didn't expect him to come in and blow us away. I didn't think he would score 7-8 goals for Tottenham and lead us to the European success that we eventually had. But I thought that he would have a decent impact, score a few goals, be good in some games when we need him, and just add for when Spurs did have the injuries that we had. Now, when it did actually play out, you got to saw. He had impact when we had injuries. As opposed to using Timo Werner, we got Tell. He put some decent crosses in, scored some important goals, some non-important goals, and also got a few assists. Now, I don't think this warrants us to sign him, and I'm not all for the signing of Tell, even if we could get him at a cut price of £30 million. We know with Spurs, one of the biggest things isn't the price that we're spending on these players. It's the fact that it's going to take away a squad place and potential money that's going to be spent on other players. Spurs have seen and identified this season that the one thing that we've had and we've been missing is experience. We lack experience heavily. So to go out there this summer, I feel like all the players that come in should be experienced 25, 26 plus year olds that can come in and have an instant impact. We don't need players that are on potential or they might do this or they might do that. I'm tired of that business anymore. I don't want to know about how big someone's ceiling is. Show me what their floor is like. I need a marble floor setting, if you get what I'm saying, yeah? I need a player that can come in and raise the team, the level of the team instantly. Don't need a player that may raise the level of the team in 4 to 5 years. So Mathys Tel, not the signing that we need. We could go Bayern and get another man though. And guess what? It won't cost a thing. Leroy Sané. I won't speak too much, yeah? But Mathys Tel, put the fries in a bag, send him back to Bayern, you know what I mean?
Yes, Scarfey, it's your boy Ashmatic. Big up yourself and your channel. It's Spurs Kings TV's very finest, Ashmatic in the build up. We're asking me, should Spurs sign Mathys Tel? In my humble opinion, very harsh, but I'm going to say no. And the reason being is I think we already have a player that it's underdeveloped, needs coaching, is quite raw, but has a high ceiling in Odegaard. So in my opinion, we've already made the purchase of the bird. Getting Tel would be more or less getting another player of that type of ilk. And I think to push on, now that we're in the Champions League and we're trying to get back up the league to where we deserve to be, where we should be, we need a higher caliber player, in my opinion. If I'm looking at Tel, even if it was a lower price, I still wouldn't budge on it because that money could be used for other players or used elsewhere in other areas and other positions. Tel, for me, when it comes to his finishing, he lacks a variety of finishes. So you've got finesse, you've got placement, you've got chips, you've got, power shots, and that's the one he mainly goes for, power. And I've seen him use power when it doesn't need to be used. I've seen him use his weaker foot, and he could take a touch, take his time and settle himself and get himself into a better shooting position. But I feel like when has less time to think about what his best decision should be, that's when he suffers. And it's not just his shooting. But I have seen him, again, use power a lot more than I have seen him use finesse. And for me, that indicates that he's not a natural finisher. I'm not saying he's a striker, but as a front three, you want your wide player to add some goals as well. And I think that's where he suffers, in my opinion, from what I've seen in a Spurs shirt so far. No doubt with better coaching, he could improve. But yeah, I think in terms of possession as well, he struggles in possession because he's not able to have enough physicality to hold off his man, and he's not able to turn his man as well, especially in the defensive thirds when we're trying to build up. And Spurs need a player that can relieve pressure at times, where we can get up the field, and we also use them as almost like a player that pins a defender and then he's able to carry the ball up. A bit like what Madison does, he gets the ball, he's able to use his body to manipulate the ball and then get on the turn and then he's able to push up the pitch. I think Tel does suffer with that. He's not able to turn into spaces. So what he does, he might take his first touch and then take a safe pass it backwards or sideways. So you're not necessarily losing possession, but at times that can lead to outcomes where we might lose the ball because he's doubled up. That's another thing. When he is doubled up, he panics. So he often loses the ball. He doesn't know when to use his pace, a bit like Brennan. He's technically better than Brennan. So that was a bad comparison. But in terms of foot speed, agility, really good, quick, as I said before. But it's just knowing when to use that decision making that needs to be refined. And a lot of times I've seen him run into players. Sometimes he does pull it off, so it's not all the time. I think it's like a 2-on-1 ratio. Well, sometimes he can beat his man, he can turn, he can use quick feet, stand his man up, and there's other times he doesn't know when to do it, and it doesn't have a desired effect. In terms of like passing as well, I think his passing is not too bad. So he's got a good, decent vision. Does he execute like through balls enough? Not in my opinion. But in terms of crossing, I think he's good. I think that's something we could utilize him a little bit more if we were to go for that. But peace.
Hello, everyone, and this is going to be another important question that should be on plenty of Spurs fans' minds this summer. Would you spend 30 to 40 million euros on Mathys Tel? Spurs definitely aren't going to be paying that 60 million euro buy option. At least I hope they're not. And to be honest, I don't think there'd be much of a debate amongst us whether he would actually be worth that 60 million euros. But I imagine plenty of you guys would consider spending 30 to 40 million euros. And if you look at his last season, Mathys Tel, I don't think it was much of a failure of a loan signing. In fact, I thought he played very well in that away leg versus Frankfurt, one of our biggest games of the seaseason. Yes, Dominic Solanke put away one of the biggest penalties I've ever seen a Spurs player put away, and he also worked his tail off in that game. But I think Mathys Tel showed the most quality, driving out his fullback, being a live wire. I really liked what he brought in that game. And there were some other games where he showed some real quality, has a silky touch, has some good sort of quality to his game. But what really kind of frustrated me with this last season was I don't really feel like Spurs were a clinical team. There were plenty of games where I felt like we left points on the board, in fact lost games, because it wasn't as much to do with the defense or the tactics or the midfield. Granted, there are issues there, but I felt like it was because Spurs just don't put away their chances on a consistent basis. And we need to show that we can be more of a clinical team if we actually do want to be much better in the Premier League this next season. So we should be looking to spend, in my opinion, around 60 to 80 million euros on a player that we know can create chances, of course, but then also put away their opportunities on a consistent basis, put away chances, the half chances, the quarter chances that can really punish teams so that we don't get punished on the other end of things like we saw plenty of times this last season. If you're going to be spending 30 to 40 million euros on someone like Mathys Tel, who in my opinion wasn't necessarily a very clinical player. In fact, even that most recent game against Brighton, he could have made it 2-0 for us by the end of the first half, and it could have been a different outcome. And you could argue there were other games where he had chances that he could have put away, and it could have been a different outcome. But we should be looking to save 30 to 40 million euros and actually pushing the boat out instead on more of a 60 to 80 million pound player when you already have Sonny going out the door as well that you need to replace. Bring in someone that could be available in the Premier League this summer. Plenty of people will laugh at these suggestions, but I imagine that we could perhaps lure one of them if you were to spend that much money. Perhaps on a Matoma, you could look at Mbeumo or Wissa from Brentford, Eze if he's still available, Mateusz Cunha, Jared Bowen or Kudus could be on the market, even though I feel like they had a terrible this last season. I think we all usually rate those players. Semenyo as well from Bournemouth. These are the type of players from the Premier League, at least, that I think could help us be more of a clinical team, create chances, but also put away their chances on a consistent basis and take on the mantle that Sonny would be leaving behind. But let me know your thoughts. Would you be spending 30 to 40 million euros on Mathys Tel? I don't think I would.
Harry's asked me to do a 2-minute video on why we should or shouldn't sign Tel. And I've got a few reasons why I wouldn't sign him. One, he's 18 years old. We've got 3 academy kids coming through our ranks. Tynan Thompson, Luca Barnett-Williams, Mikey Moore, all playing that same position. Now we'd be blocking their path. They're all between the age of 16 to 17. 2, for the money we're going to spend, we could spend it more wisely in a position we need, and we haven't got no players coming through or even in our first team. Now, I don't dislike Tel. I think he could be a great player, but why waste money when you've got players in that position already coming through your own academy? What sort of sign does that send out to the players that we're bringing through in our academy? In my opinion, it's a stupid signing. I don't particularly rate him. I think he's got 12 goals in the Bundesliga, only 2 in England. I think his best strike rate's 5 in 10 for France under 21s. Not for me.
Should Spurs sign Mathys Tel? It's a good question, one that's getting asked quite a bit on social media at the moment. I like Mathys Tel. I think there's a player there, very raw. Scored a couple of goals. Really good goal at Villa, stands out. But should we sign him? No, I don't think we should sign him permanently yet. I would be interested if we were to sign him on loan, maybe with an obligation. I think he needs another year. I'm not sure we're there yet to spend 25-30 million on him. I think he's got a really high ceiling. Just not sure. I think we need ready-made players at the moment. But if he was someone we got in on loan and signed some other, adults, experienced players, then I'd be for it. But I wouldn't be dropping 30 million on him, no.
What's happening? Luke here from Part Lane Podcast. Harry has asked me to, record a little video regarding my thoughts on Mathys Tel, whether Spurs should sign him in the summer. Look, those that check out our podcast know that I'm not a very big fan of Mathys Tel. I don't really think that he's produced when it mattered for Spurs. We can talk about passion, we can talk about effort, we can talk about flailing your arms in the air, running a little bit. But to be honest with you, from my perspective, like Richarlison's had more of an impact this summer or this season than Mathys Tel, and that's saying something because he's useless as well. Should Spurs sign him? No, is the short answer. Look, played 13 times in the Premier League and scored twice. He's got 2 goals in 913 minutes in the Premier League. I just don't think that's good enough for a player. The whole point in the player coming in on loan is A, so that they can get more playing time, they can develop their career, but B, so they can impact a side. You don't bring somebody in January to not make an impact. And 2 goals in the Premier League in 13 appearances for a highly rated, highly talented youngster is not good enough for me. 1 goal in the FA Cup, no goals in the Europa League. He was left out of the Europa League final for a reason. Whether it costs 30 or 50 million, I still don't think it's worth Spurs buying him. You could go off the attitude like, well, we should buy him, spend the money, and then hope that he turns into the player that people believe him to be. But it's just not how things work. We've complained so long about the transfer structure in this football club, and I just think that by doing this now, we would go against everything that we have asked of our chairman to stop doing for a long time. Stop buying in cheap young players and the ability to maybe make a flip or hope that they work out in the future. That 30 to 50 million is also going to impact who we can sign. That's going to really kind of stamp their place in the first team. So personally, nothing against Tel, but I don't think he should be a Tottenham Hotspur player next season.
Hey Harry, thank you for asking me to do this video. I'm Holly's Hot Spurs. My hair is a bit manic today, a bit like Tottenham in recent weeks, because we're champions. But yeah, I'm going to answer this question. Do I think Tottenham should sign Mathys Tel? I personally think so. Yes, okay, the price is quite high, but there's been rumours that is going to come down. I think we've embedded him well into the squad. I think he's made a difference since coming in January. Okay, not a massive one, but I think he gives that option out wide and through the middle, which is something we kind of need at Spurs now and again. His energy, I think the biggest thing for me as well is the fact that, I can't remember what game it was, to be perfectly honest with you, this year's been a bit of a blur, but after we had a poor result, he went over to the fans, went and spoke to the fans, which is more than what I saw a lot of the senior kind of management team kind of do in the team, in terms of, I didn't see Maddison go over and do that. I didn't necessarily see Sonny do that. I didn't really see Romero do that. I know towards the latter end of the season it was fine. But Mathys Tel for me, I think is a good egg. I think we should get him on a permanent, personally. I don't really know anybody else. I mean, if we get Eze in, Jesus Christ, okay, Fez, I'll my hands up and say, okay, fine. But I think we've got him into the squad. We've embedded him quite well. He gets along with the teammates. Obviously, Timo Werner's already gone. Reguilon's gone. So for me, I think Tel is probably someone we should definitely keep. For me personally, again, it all kind of boils down to who our manager will be next season. I think he did quite well under Ange Postecoglou, but that's also up in the air as well. Because with Spurs, you can never have an easy life, to be honest with you. But that's kind of me, short and sweet. I'd like to see Mathys Tel in a Spurs shirt next season on, not alone anymore, permanent. I'm here for it. I'm down.
Mathys Tel, an enigma. He came with such a massive reputation, a £50 million player. and he never lived up to it. He looked lacking in confidence, lacking in conviction for me. His passing was never quite right. Nothing really ever came off for him. And yet you look at his pedigree, his credentials, and you think there must be more to it than that. From what I hear, from what the papers are saying, Spurs are still interested in getting him, but at a lower price. And that, to me, I think it's just a question of what that price is. You're not going to pay £50 million or euros for him. It just hasn't looked like that kind of player at all. But if you could get him for 20, say, or less, then it would be worth thinking about. But even then, I think it would be, you'd need to have seen, obviously we haven't seen him in training and stuff, you'd need to have seen signs in training that he is a player of that kind of calibre. So, yeah, if the price is right, it's worth considering, but not at the original price, I'm afraid. But I hope, he could turn out to be amazing. He's the youngest ever scorer for Bayern Munich, and he goes out with Miss France. That's his girlfriend. That's got nothing to do with it. I'm just saying he's a high achiever in many ways.
Hi Harry, you asked me about Tell. Mathys Henry Tell. I wonder if they thought there and then, when he was younger, that he was going to be a Thierry Henry. Listen, he's an exciting player, no doubt about it. 20 years of age, started his career as a centre back, and he's got great physical attributes, great stamina, which puts him in good stead with his one-on-ones, because he's got the pace, he's got the intelligence to make the runs, which has seen him obviously get into the French under-21 squad. For me, though, the question is that a player that we need right now? What I like is that, when the shit's hit the fan and everything's going wrong, he's the guy, even though he's the lone guy who's just come into the club, he's the guy that's going to the fans and geeing up the fans when things aren't going right, or jumping into the crowd, which I really like. But when I look at his stats, and, here in Germany, in all competitions, 34 games, he's got 3 goals, 1 a penalty, 1 a tap-in, and 1 a decent goal, in 2 assists in 1,700 minutes here in Germany. Those stats aren't great. I'm not saying he's not going to go on to become a really good player, because I'm sure he really will be, but is that what we need right now for the money that's on offer? I don't believe that the fee will ever be 50 million euros. I think that's just made up by the press, as there often is, but I reckon it's more like 30 million. It would depend who the manager is, because if Ange is not going to be the manager, then we shouldn't be buying Tell, because we should be using those funds for the new manager coming in, whoever it is. If it's Frank or whoever it is, they should be asking him first, and if he wants him, fair enough. But for me, I'd utilise the money to be going to buy, for me, there's only one player, Eberechi Eze. He's a Spurs player. We all know it. You see it when he plays. I think the audition when he came to us this season, the end of the season, when he banged in those 2 goals, I mean, he single-handedly almost won Crystal Palace that FA Cup quarter-final, semi-final, final. Some fantastic goals. We don't have anyone else who's just going to pick up the ball and bang one into the bottom corner or top right. When teams are playing the low block and you can't break anyone down, he's the guy that can just pick up the ball in the D and just bang one. And that's what we need. Spurs desperately need a player like that. We all know he's a Spurs player, and we should be using all the money for that. Come on, you Spurs.
Good afternoon, it's Kate from Kate and Jimbo, doing a video for Harry Scarfe. Big up Harry every time. Asking whether or not we should sign Mathys Tell. Look, I see that this guy's got some interesting attributes. I think that there's a player in there, but at the same time, Bayern Munich don't let people go if they think they're really good. So I think we could do better than him, especially for the money. But I did also read that we've met some of the conditions for the obligation to buy now, so we might not actually have a choice but to buy him. But I like him, but I think we could do better. So in an ideal world, no, we sign someone that's an improvement on Tell. But if we do sign him, there's not much we can do at the minute.
Young.
He's young and he looks like he's quick, but he's crossing into the balls, not crossing into the box ain't great. He's not clinical enough in front of goal from what I've seen. So I think we could do with a more experienced winger. But at the moment, we don't even know who our manager's going to be, taking us into the Premier League. So Mathys Tell is pretty much bottom of my concerns right now. But what will be, will be. There's no point in us worrying and stressing because we can't change it. But it does sound like it's got Levy written all over it. So I do expect him to sign. But as I say, in an ideal world, I'd like better. But anyway, make sure everyone likes and subscribes to Harry. Go on, you Spurs.
Hello, Harry. Thanks for having me on, mate. Should we sign Mathys Tell? I think we should, personally. I think we need to. I can understand how people would be a little bit worried about funds going towards him when they could be going towards more established, experienced players in the squad. But I think you could see from the 6 months, maybe he didn't have the impact that people were hoping, but you could see he has all the attributes to become a top player. I like his mentality as well. He's obviously come from a massive club and a club that's used to winning in Bayern Munich. So he can carry that over. You know how Kulusevski's got a really, really good mentality because he came through the likes of Juventus, same with Romero. Mathys Tell, he's grown up in that environment and he can transfer that winning environment to Spurs as he develops. And I can see him becoming a real leader in the team. I love the fact that he even went over to the fans when we were in a really dark, difficult time. And he tried to sort of apologise and talk to the fans and reason with them. I think that shows a lot of maturity for a really young player. So I really like him, and he's very raw. He's very, very raw. He's nowhere near the finished article, but I think if we stick with him, he could be really, really good. I'm recording this at a time where it looks like Ange's going to get sacked, but I don't know whether he will be for sure. And the rumour is Thomas Frank. So I actually think Thomas Frank he'd be really, really good under Thomas Frank. I think Thomas Frank would be able to get the best out of him. Because you've seen how those winger striker hybrids have done wonders under Frank's management. The likes of Mbuemo, Wissa is a bit similar to that. So I feel like he would really suit the way Frank uses Brian Mbuemo right now in Brentford's system. I think obviously different physiques, different profiles, but that sort of directness, explosiveness, because he definitely has that. And under Ange, it'll be interesting to say Ange does stay. I'm not sure, but I still think he can be an important player that could be utilised in out wide and up front in the Champions League. I think he seems settled. He seems like our sort of player already. He seems happy. Just do it, especially if we can negotiate a lower price. We need to just do it. 30 mil would be a steal, and hopefully in 5 years we'll look back at that as we do with Kulusevski and think, in today's market, it's an absolute steal. Cheers, Harry. Legend.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we're all well and everyone's doing fine. My name's Phil. Harry Scarfe has politely asked me to answer the question whether we should be signing Mathys Tell this summer on the permanent, or if we end his loan spell and that's the end of it. Now, I think the first point that needs to be made is the price tag. It's been lowered from 50 to 30 million, which is obviously good. That extra 20 million that's been cut off gives us an opportunity to put that into another player, maybe like Eze or someone like that. But I think Tell for the future is a good idea. He is energetic, he is versatile as well, he can play across the front three. But when it comes to that, I think the only issue that we're going to have is where is he going to play in that front three, and will his performances and starts be consistent within that front three. Obviously, we've got the likes of Dejan Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, Wilson Odobert, which is another young prospect. Dominic Solanke will stay. Who knows on what Richarlison is doing, and also our captain Son Heung-min. But for the most part, I think keeping Tel would be a brilliant move. He's young, and it will teach him a lot about the club. The fans will grow to like him. I mean, as they already said, don't fall in love with a lone player. And I think a large majority of us have already done that. I think when he's come on the pitch, he's been unbelievable. And he's very, very exciting to watch. He's quick, skillful, and good on the ball as well. And I know that some of his performances this season have said otherwise, and that can go along with his stats. However, I think for someone at the age of 19 to come into the Prem with such confidence, with such high hopes and belief within himself is what we need. And alongside the likes of Wilson Odobert, Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray, we need players that can be playing not week in, week out, but get a good amount of minutes each week within that first team squad, so that they become experienced enough to play in it when they get older and they're a promised good, strong player for the future. There's talk of Leroy Sané, not the video to do it in because it's all about Tel, but I'd say for the future Tel is definitely one to look at, especially given the uncertainty that we have with Son. He may be going, as I previously mentioned, but for the future, 30 million for Mathys Tel. I'd love him at the club, proper footballer, and yeah. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time, and see you all next season. Come on, you Spurs.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ian from Spurs Diehards here. Should we sign Tel, yes or no? Well, first of all, these are the decisions for the people that get the big bucks to make these decisions. We see Tel maybe for half an hour, 45 minutes every couple of weeks or so. These people see what the guy can do on the training ground week in, week out. So they have to make the call. Now that might seem a bit self-evident, but you're going to get lots of things. No, he's no good. He's this, he's that. All I can tell you is this. First of all, everybody who sees him on the training ground and what have you says he's a massive talent for the future. And therefore, given the way the club is running, and there's going to be a lot of things happening this week that might change that, but given the way the club is running, then yes, in principle, I'm for signing Tel. But the huge but is for £60 million, not a cat in hell's chance, or even 60 million euros. At the moment, I see him as being a player worth maybe £25 million or 30 million euros at most on his current form. If there's a deal where we can do it, maybe 20 plus add-ons or 25 plus add-ons, then I'm all for it. In this market, you don't actually get that much for £20 million. And if he's going to develop, and they say from what they see on the training ground, he will develop as a 19-year-old into a very good 21, 22-year-old, then I'm all for it. But unless the price is down at that kind of level, then no. But otherwise, yeah, I'd take the risk.
Hey everyone, it's Harry from Spurs TV here, back for another video. So Harry asked me to tell you guys what I thought about Tel and Tottenham. So I do have quite strong views about this. So let's get into it. Well, number one, I do not want Tel at Tottenham. I think his signing kind of signals the end for Mikey Moore. And for me, Mikey Moore's our best young player, better than Tel, and deserves way more minutes. And also, I just don't rate Tel. I've seen him play for us. I've yet to see anything productive or special or just anything that makes me think, you know, this guy is a real top player or has a lot of ability. And I'd argue that I've seen better players at 19 years old, as I cited with Mikey Moore as an example. So for me, Tel, I do not want him at Spurs. Now, Harry asked me also whether I would take Tel on a cheaper deal. For me, I'll just reiterate what I just said again, I do not want Tel at Spurs. In terms of the money aspect, the 50 million in originality, which I think was the price that was quoted to sign him, that was the option. Of course, I wouldn't take that up anyway, but I think that 50 million could be better spent on a more established player. You could buy 50 million, you could get Mbeumo. As of taking this video though, I think Mbeumo is going to United, but I'm sure you can go and get Vissa for that amount, or a more established player. We have already too many young players. As I mentioned, Mikey Moore as an example on the left. Odebert's also there. I'd rather them to get more minutes and just let's forget Tell and spend the money on something better. Also, if you would sign him on a lesser contract, like 30 million or something, I think that money, whilst it might not get you one player as an established player, it could go to extra money to get more money, so a better player in another position. For example, we go for Eze as an example. We instead of being able to pay 70 million, because we spent 30 to 50 million on Tell, we can't pay the 70 million pound fee for as an example. So because we're 30 million short or something like that. So this is where the problem comes in with Tell. And like I said, too many young players, too many players in that left wing position anyway. I know Werner's gone back, and I think Solomon's on his way out. But for me, Tell's only half decent appearances have been on the left hand side. And as I cited to you just now, Odobert ain't going. He's probably best on the left. I don't think he can play on the right. Obviously there's that rumours of Sane, and he's more of a right anyway, but on the terms of the left, Sonny is debatable whether he's going to go or stay. Maybe if Son goes, Tell might stay, I don't know. But I'd still, even if Son goes, I think we'd have to go out and sign a proper established left winger along with Sane if we're going to sign Sane on the right. So for me, Tell, no at the 50 million pin, and no in general, and no even if he gave me like a knockoff fee, I think it's a waste of money and wages. And yeah, Tell for Tottenham, no for me.
Do we keep Mathys Tell at Tottenham Hotspur? Do we make him permanent, or do we end the loan? For me, it's a no-brainer. We definitely make it a permanent deal. I've been a big fan of Mathys Tell since he's joined us. Obviously, in January, he came in. He was thrown into the side a bit quicker than he may have expected, but obviously our injuries were a main reason to us why he was. Goal against Aston Villa, only a few games into his Tottenham Hotspur career. It was a nice little finish as well. And then from that moment on, he's only seemed to get better and more threatening down the left-hand side, or if he's played in a more central role as well, instead of Solanke or Richarlison, etc. But for me, definitely keep him. He's only 19. He's very, very young. Obviously, he's a player that in the next 1 or 2 seasons, he can be a squad player or someone we can bring off the bench. Obviously, you look at the likes of Man City, they've got Savinho and Doku, who sometimes start on the bench as a pair. They can come on, and their pace, their energy can transform a game. And that's what I think Tell can do. He's got the pace, he's got the skill. And him and Odobert have already got a little duo working up as well. We saw against West Ham. Nice little link-up play for the goal. So definitely keep Mathys Tell. Make it a permanent deal. I believe the asking fee could be around 60 million, but then obviously Bayern Munich might increase it. And then also Bayern Munich apparently have been trying to get a new deal for Mathys Tell for him to stay with the Bavarians. But no, for me, definitely keep Mathys Tell. Obviously, if next season, if Ange does stay, then we could have another potentially good season in Europe, or maybe a bit of both, focus on the Premier League as well, because hopefully our injury shouldn't be too bad next year. But I think, obviously, again, with Son sort of declining, obviously, definitely keep Son for me. But maybe we could start Mathys Tell on the left-hand side if we don't invest in the left winger. Obviously, I'd much prefer we do invest in the left winger, like Jamie Gittins or perhaps even Leroy Sané on a free. But either way, Mathys Tell will be a squad player. He'll be a very, very key player for us if we do keep him for the next 5 seasons or so, central or on the left-hand side, maybe even on the right, because he's quite versatile across all 3 sort of positions in the attacking outlook. But yeah, for me, definitely keep Mathys Tell at Tottenham Hotspur. Love to make him a permanent deal, because I believe he will be a fundamental player to whatever system, whatever manager we get. He can definitely suit it, because he can play centrally, he can play out on the wing. So definitely keep Mathys Tell at Tottenham Hotspur. That's what I think.
Hi, Harry Nige from Pure Coys. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this short video for you. You've asked the question, would I take Mathys Tell at Tottenham? I think the answer for me is no. I'm quite happy to let him go back to Bayern. I don't think we should be spending money on him. And listen, this is nothing against the guy. He's a young player, and he could become a really good player in the next 2 to 3, 4 years. And I could look silly by saying I'd send him back when he's tearing it up in the Champions League in 3 or 4 years' time. But for right now, which I think is what we need right now, I'd be looking to spend the money elsewhere personally. Like I say, I think he's a decent young player, but he didn't pull up any trees. Again, is really difficult when you come into a side that's struggling as much as we've been in the Premier League. So I don't blame him for that. Listen, when he's got the ball, he has looked exciting at times, and he's got a couple of goals and an assist. But for me, for where we are right now, I just think we need to be looking for more experience. So I would be looking to bring players 25, 26, 27 in now to hopefully take us forward. Now we're in the Champions League. We've got that trophy off our back. Amazing night in Bilbao. But let's move on now. For me, I don't need another young player. We should be signing experience. And I don't want to block the likes of Mikey Moore. You know, he's coming through. I want to see him on the left-hand side a bit more next season if he doesn't go out on loan. And I just think signing another young player could halt Mikey Moore's growth in the squad. Otherwise, I think Tell's done okay. I send him back. Like I said, in a couple of years, he could become a really good player. But for right now, not for me. That's my thoughts on Tell. Thank you so much again for letting me do this video. Have a great day, guys, and much love. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Hi, Rosa from Hometown Glory here. Should Tottenham sign Mathys Tel this summer? I would have to say yes. My track record on this is not great because I was a fan of Timo Werner around this time last year, I believe. So obviously that didn't end up too well. So for what it's worth, and my words may not be worth much as a result of that, I think that we should. And they're not really going to be for massively footballing reasons, which again is another reason you probably don't want to trust me. I love his attitude. And I actually do think that's quite a big thing with if we keep Ange, of course, which for the record, I think we should. And I hope that we do. His attitude since he came here has been exemplary. And I think that's obviously to do with him coming from a big and a very serious club at Bayern Munich, but he always has acted as if he wants to give his best, to play his best and to play at the top. And that has not always been the case with some of our players, I'd have to say. And even just little things of him talking to the fans at the end of games when even our most senior players wouldn't do it after losses, I think speaks really highly of his character, the kind of character that you want in a dressing room. But also in terms of his playing style, I have really enjoyed watching him. He's obviously pretty raw, but I think his ceiling is pretty high. He offers something that we, as much as we love Sonny, and he's our beloved captain, and we want him, I hope we all want him to stay, he has not been able to drive forward this season very much. And every time Tel has come on, he has looked to make something happen. He has been really dynamic and really forward thinking. And that is the kind of play that I love to see. That's the kind of player I want to see playing for Tottenham Hotspur. So I understand people's reservations about the price that was agreed with Bayern Munich. I guess we don't want to pay as much as whatever the figure is. So I imagine they'll look to knock it down. I don't massively care about that stuff, but I imagine that we would do that anyway. So yes, sign him. This isn't sign him and don't sign anybody else. This is sign an exciting young talent to be part of Tottenham's future. Once more, and Jin. See you guys later.
Yes, people. Hope everybody's doing well. Please like the video. Please give Harry a sub. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Please support his channel. Mathys Tel, he's asked us to give him my assessment on him as a player, if we should sign him or not, and what sort of price, if we were going to sign him, which should we pay for someone like him. Coming in January, there was a lot of excitement around him. Young player, playing in Germany, played in a lot of big matches, in and out the team for Bayern Munich. I wasn't too sure about him, really, to be honest. I've obviously seen some of his highlights. But look, he came in. And what I liked about him was his enthusiasm. Seemed a lovely kid. Few nice touches. He scored a couple of goals. But I don't really know what sort of player he is. He's not a winger. He's not a number 9. And I don't really know what his role is. I don't really think that he fitted into the team. He didn't offer too much. You know, when you look at kind of output with a player, you want assists, you want goals. You want to see him involved throughout the game. It didn't do enough for me.
and nothing against the kids. He's young. He's got a lot more time to develop, and he could be a really fantastic player in the future if he's playing in the right system under the right coach. Now, Tottenham Hotspur got a number of young players that need to kind of start finding their way into the squad, playing a lot of games, and I think Tell will stop those players' progress. Got the likes of Mikey Moore, who I'd rather see in the side than Tell. Now, the price tag around Tell is 40-50 million euros. That's too much. Spurs, was working on some kind of financial constraints, and that's a lot of money to put out for a player with potential. And I would rather keep with our young players, trying to integrate them into the side and send Tell back. And we need signings, experienced signings for the first team, especially next season when we're in the Champions League. We need ready-made players to go now. And as I said with Tell, he's not a winger, he's not a number 9. And we need someone who's direct, who can score goals, create assists consistently for us. There are a lot of question marks around our front line at Spurs. Yes, we do score a lot of goals, but I think we need the better. And unfortunately, Mathys Tell is someone I wouldn't encourage Spurs to sign, even if it was for a lower price. As I said, I think we've got youngsters who can come in and do as good a job as him, and that's what I'd prefer to see. But he came in, he did his best. Again, a lot of enthusiasm. It's great for him that he's walked away with a trophy, coming to Spurs on loan. I wish him all the best for the future, but I would not be taking up the option. Guys, thank you for watching the video. Please support Harry's channel. Take care of yourselves. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Hey guys, Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs, and first of all, just wanted to say a massive thank you to Harry for having me on to give my opinion on all things Mathys Tell. If you haven't done so already, please make sure that you like and subscribe to Harry's channels. Now, Mathys Tell, the 6-month loan deal probably wasn't as impactful as we would have hoped. I think Spurs should have targeted a player with a bit more experience, hopefully would have played in the Premier League and been able to come in and make a proper impact for Spurs. It's hard for a young player, let alone a young player coming over from another country, to come in and make a big impact for a team that were struggling so much, specifically in the Premier League. I did like bits and pieces that I see from him. The stats, the figures, the data may not back it up. However, I just have a feeling that Mathys Tell is going to become a very, very good player. Now, the problem is that Spurs don't need players that are going to become good. We need good players right now to improve the first 11, the squad, whatever that may be. We need these improvements ASAP. But an original fee that was touted around was like the £50 million mark. I just don't think that we should be spending that amount of budget on a player that is not for the here and the now. Recent reports have suggested that has probably decreased to around about the £30 million mark. As I said, I think that we really need to be making sure that we're signing players that are impacting this first 11. Now, would I be against signing a Mathys Tell towards the end of the season after we've done, towards the end of the transfer window after we've picked up the players that we need? Obviously, you've got Sane, you've had Eze that have been linked. If we go and sign these sorts of players and then Tell comes in as an option, then I'm 100% not against it. I do think, as I said, I think he will become a good player. And for him to be in and around the squad, I think will be a good option. However, again, my theory is that if we go and spend £30 million, then that is going to be a big signing for us. And that money is then taken away from going to sign another player. So it all depends on who's going to come in with him. You can be optimistic and say, yeah, we'll go and sign Tell at 30 million at the start of the window, and then we go and pick up your Sanes and et cetera, et cetera. I just don't think we will if we spend that amount of money on him. Recent reports seem to suggest that we may go for an option of a loan and then an option at the end of that maybe, possibly, that will become mandatory depending on clauses, etc. Again, I wouldn't be against that. I just think that finance-wise, we need to make sure that we are improving that 11. So again, if he comes in as an option, not against it. I think he will go into a player in a couple of years' time. We could be looking back and is that a player we should have probably gone and spent £30 million on? The problem for me is all about priorities. And right now, Mathys Tel is not a priority for a Tottenham Hotspur team that has just qualified for the Champions League. And we've got quite obvious places in our squad that need improvements before we bring in Mathys Tel. Like to know your thoughts on it. Please pop a like and a comment on this video. As always, come on, you Spurs.